Okay, students, here we are. I'm going to be showing you a couple features today using the Desmos.com graphing calculator. We've mentioned it in class. I've emailed it to you. So if you forget it, it's desmos.com/calculator. There's a lot of free online graphing calculators out there. This is just sort of the best one I have found. There's a number of features, and so what we'll do is the first 30 seconds or so, next minute or so, I'll go over some of how you get started. If you already know how to get started, just jump ahead to about the 1.5 minute mark of this recording once you start seeing graphs show up on the line. Okay, so once you're in here, this is where you're going to type in equations. You see where my cursor is, so you type in like y equals, and if you do something like y equals x, oops, we have a negative there, that shouldn't be there, there we go. Y equals x, you'll see that it creates your basic line. Okay, some other features I'd like to show you are you can click on this, I'm holding down, clicking, and you can reshape the graph, put it anywhere on your screen where you like. You may also hide this entire list over here and just focus on the graph. Now, if you want to go back to your equation, just click over there, and there's your equation again. The other thing is, just like a graphing calculator, it'll allow you to put several equations in. And I'm not sure what the limit is. I have done up to 10 equations, and it's not a problem. So that's how you use these things. Now, let's say you want to delete some. You just click the X over here, and you're getting rid of all these little, you'll see all these extra equations going away. So now we're just down to basic y equals x. One final thing that I like to play around with is the settings. I like to click on over here in projector mode. You'll notice it just changed the line to a little bit darker. Okay. So here's where we're going to get into the heart of what we're trying to do today. We're going to try and graph parabolas. So here we have our y equals x. That's not what we're trying to talk about in this chapter. Our chapter is about parabolas. So if I click down in the corner here, I can go show the whole keypad. This is how you can get the x squared button. If you're wondering how do I put exponents? Well, here's how you do it. Okay, so let's start with that. And pretty much at this point, I don't really need the keyboard anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and hide it again. Okay, so here we are. We got x squared. That's our standard parabola. Okay. Now what we're going to try and do here, and what's neat about this and what you can't do on other computers, or with other software like a graphing calculator, you can actually put what's called a slider in here. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to put plus k. We're going to use k as our variable. And then you'll notice it says add slider. This thing is really, really advanced. So it's kind of cool. So let me go and show you this. What it is we can change the value of k. We can slide this around. So if I put it back here, k is 0. And I want to start here because we're going to focus everything from here. K is 0, and you'll notice it's going through the actual origin of the graph at 0, 0. Okay, that's key. Because notice when I slide the value of k over and I change it, if I slide it over to, let's say, 1, let's try and get exactly on 1. You'll notice it moved exactly 1 up. Because if this is 2, then halfway here is 1. So if I slide k, if I made the value of k 2, there we go. This would be like having x squared plus, and we'd put a 2 in here. So now the value is 2. It shifted the whole graph up by 2. Shifted over to 3, it's shifting up. Shift over to 4, and it shifts up. So what we're finding is, if you change that value at the end, you've changed that value of k, you are basically shifting the graph upwards or downwards. Shifted to positive 3, and now the graph is crossing through positive 3. Shifted over here to negative 3.8, and now the graph down here is crossing exactly at 3.8. So that's the key here. Now we're going to be able to figure out how the graph changes based on what numbers we're putting in. Okay, so now let's do this. Let's go around the x. Whoops, the x should be inside. Let's put the x inside parentheses. Still a parabola. Having x inside parentheses does not change what we're doing here. What does change is if we put a minus and we add a value in here, say h. Okay. What it's saying is we're going to subtract some number from x before we do the x squared, before we square it. So let's go ahead. Now we got two things going on here. It's going to get kind of confusing. So let's go ahead and make it simple. Let's put k back to 0. Right there. And now let's put h back to 0. Now here's the key, and that's where it's all going to start becoming clear, hopefully. When h is 0 and k is 0, you're going through the origin, which is 0, 0. So 0 and 0 means this thing's going to pass through 0, 0. Now what happens is as I change the value of h, if we put 4 here, you'll notice it actually crosses at 4. Shift it over to 5, and the graph is now crossing at 5. Shift it over to 6, now it's at 6, and anywhere I can change the value, and what it's doing is it's shifting our parabola. Okay, well, why is that important? Well, because not every parabola is going to be centered at 0, 0. Or, let's say you have some data, and your data didn't start at time 0. Your data started somewhere other than the origin. You're going to want to be able to transfer your graph. You'll be able to shift it to get it to match your data. Now, let's go ahead and try to do both of these things together and see where things go. So if it's at 0, if h is 0 and k is 0, you're at 0, 0 right here. Now, when I start sliding this thing, if I slide h to 4 and k to 4, let's pause for a second and see if you can think, where is that going to be? If this was 4 and that was 4, where would the parabola be? Okay, did you think about it for a second? Well, let's see. You should have it somewhere up in this quadrant up here. It should actually be, not somewhere, exactly at 4, 4. If I slide the h over to 4, that moves it over to 4. And if I slide the value k over to 4, it's going all the way up to 4. Okay, so now we can shift it up or down, and we know where it's going to go. Okay, so we're almost done here, and we're going to wrap up this video. There's still some more we can do, but I'll put that as a separate video when we try and flip the graph upside down or make it skinnier or wider. But for now, let's go ahead and close this, and then let's actually take this out, and we can now start creating our own parabolas. And here's what's kind of neat about this. Let's take all this stuff out. Let's go back to the start. X squared, there's your parabola. Let's say you want a parabola friend a little bit below it. What you can do is you can copy and paste, so Control C and Control V, and let's go -4. And you got another parabola down there. Let's say we want another parabola. Y equals, well, let's not do that. Let's just paste again. Command V, and now let's go -6. So now we got another parabola. Let's go Command V, -8. And so you can put a whole bunch of parabolas like this. Okay, now picture this. Imagine we were able to flip all of them upside down, and we'll talk about that. Okay, what you can do with actually this is actually use these instructions to tell the computer how to make a picture. Imagine we flipped all these upside down, made them a little bit wider, and if you could picture that, we sort of have the shape of a rainbow. Okay, and in fact, maybe we can do that right now. Maybe I can show you a couple things real quickly here. Last thing, how do we make it upside down? Well, check this out. Put a negative in front, and it flips all of our y values. It makes all the positives negatives again. And now our whole parabola, our whole thing, let's drag it up again. We got the whole thing, but upside down now. Everything was there, but now it's just shifted upside down. All the same graphs, just now upside down. So that's what we can do with parabolas, just with knowing a little bit of features here. And the whole idea here is the negative in front has a specific change in the graph. The -2 on the end has a specific change. Adding a number inside the parentheses has another specific change. And so once you know all that, it allows you to move things left, right, up, down, or upside down. So basically, each one of those controls a different parameter. You can shift it horizontally, you can shift it vertically, or you can reflect it. Okay, so that's a lot of information, but hopefully you can go back and watch this a little bit at a time. If you forget stuff, you can go back and watch this at the end of this chapter, and hopefully you found it sort of useful for you. All right, thanks for watching, and bring questions to class.